As the year closes out, let's do our annual tradition of taking a look at the 10 plus 5 honorable mentions best Bionicle MOCs of the year. These are the best of the best, and I had your help for this. You guys sent me a bunch of emails with what you thought were some of your best MOCs, other MOCs that you saw across the community, all that sort of stuff. So I've compiled a list of stuff that I really liked, stuff that you really liked, and I've kept both the people and my opinions in mind. However, ultimately, this is my opinion with all of these MOCs here. These are what I deem to be my favorite 10 of the year, but I have definitely factored in what you guys have thought too. There are some entries on this list that are here because you guys also liked them as well. So doing my best to represent a larger group of thought with these, but I guess at the end of the day, it is my opinion. And if you have different opinions on what you think were the best MOCs this year, that's awesome. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are in the comments below. Anyway, let's begin with 10 to 1 and 5 honorable mentions. The very first one, the 10th best MOC of 2022, is Tahu Lord of Fire by Brandon Builds. I think this MOC is one of the best examples of conveying elemental power on a Bionicle kind of that I've ever seen, to be honest. The way that Brandon has perfectly crafted this awesome flame technique on the hands here, it just looks like the Human Torch out of like Marvel Comics or something. You can clearly see the hand and the arm underneath, and the flame is just wrapping around it, changing the color and everything. It's just expertly crafted how that's been done. It looks gorgeous. And combining it with that really awesome trans orange Tahu mask that came in this sort of weird and obscure poly bag here was a brilliant mask choice. So just such a clever way of conveying elemental powers on this MOC. And also just the rest of the MOC is a really well-built Toa. I love these blue circular sort of stripes on the upper arms there. I think a lot of the armor detailing on the legs and the torso looks gorgeous, and that beautiful belt, it is just fantastic. So a very, very clever way of designing a really awesome Toa. This next one, number 9, is by Ezreal the Blue Moon Mockist, and this is Praetor's Puppet. Something that, in my opinion, a lot of system and Bionicle builders fall into is the trap of being too detailed. I think there's this perfect balance that you kind of need to achieve when you're adding in lots of pieces and lots of detail to any kind of MOC, whether that's, you know, the accessories inside a minifigure's bedroom or greebles on a very heavily detailed mechanical MOC. If there's too much, it can kind of be a bit visually overwhelming and you just kind of don't want to look at it. But this MOC here, I think, perfectly balances the amount of greebilage, if that's a word. We're going to make it a word. The sort of lower area here, this sort of sea of wires and other sort of technical details that sort of forms into this body here, is gorgeous. It's almost smooth, but it's also this brilliant mechanical mesh of like almost sort of tentacles and pipes and different things like that. It's really cool. It's almost sort of blurring the line between technology and sort of like organic veins and things like that, which I think was kind of the point as well. So that's some very clever sort of texture and part play there. And like I said, it's not too messy. It just makes me want to continuously look at it and see all the intricacies of this design. It's really well done. The inclusion of that Darth Vader sort of computer thing piece there from one of the Ultra Build Star Wars Darth Vader sets there is a lovely little detail, and I think perfectly works with that greeble aesthetic that this MOC has. This is also just such an awesome concept. This was built for the MOC League specifically, and he was aiming to invoke elements of like authority, power, control, tyranny, coldness, and I think that's been perfectly done. You really get this sort of like the Matrix movie, that sort of sense of like technology taking over humans and kind of blurring that line between the difference of the two. And I think that all the different pieces, the beautiful sort of like white character that's just sort of being destroyed with wires hanging out and stuff, it's just really, really well done. And Ezreal certainly shot up in the quality of his MOCs in a very quick period of time. So certainly a builder to look out for in the future. Really like this one. Number 8 is Taito by Jafer. So this is actually a sort of upgraded version of a previous MOC that Jafer did with just some sort of subtle details. I believe the reason he wanted to update this is because the MOC looked great from one angle, but not from other angles, which apparently actually required a fair bit of work to rework it to make it look good from multiple viewing angles, which is an interesting way of approaching your MOCs as well, to consider, you know, how many angles it can be viewed from. But I think the very subtle, small details that this MOC now has are really, really nice. And it's a testament to how much subtle changes or very sort of small details can drastically improve a MOC. I mean, even just the photography has certainly improved over time, and I think that also makes this MOC look a lot better The fur textures with the bush on the lower legs, the beautiful fur on the front of the body there, combined with those new additions of sort of a lot more kind of CCBS armor around the legs and the torso there, make this just look so realistic and lifelike. The awesome, like, owl-like face design is just exquisite and gorgeous. This is certainly a mock worthy of a Lego master like Jafer is. This is absolutely gorgeous. Number 7 is Fuser Returns by Joxon. Joxon is the king of nice part usages, and this is a pretty decent example of that, but I think Joxon is also the king of fantastic character builds. I think this is just a sleek, beautiful mock with some fantastic shaping and textures all throughout. I love the way that the head design has been built, leaning into Joxon's nice part usages. We can see when it was mask piece being used in combination with Black Phantom's sort of like mace kind of skull piece there, and those two sort of sandwiched together with some eyes in between makes for this really nice, sleek, alien, menacing, robotic look to this. It's absolutely gorgeous. And then it's great to see those Whenua mask pieces being used again on the knees, and kind of combining that with a lot of other kind of smooth pieces, like these interesting pieces that exclusively came on the Darth Maul Star Wars Ultra Build set. Seeing those used on the lower arms there is gorgeous. So I think this is just a shining example of what you can achieve with really consistent, beautiful shaping and a few nice part usages and a really awesome gun design too. So love your work, Joxon. Number 6 goes to my boy Ari, otherwise known as Buttloaf Builds, and this is the Bloodsmith. A lot of people asked for this to be on the list here, and I wholeheartedly agree with them, even though Ari himself did not think it deserved to be on this list. He is wrong. This is a fantastic mock. I had the pleasure of having this right next to me at my area at Brick Fair, Virginia, so I've had a big, long look at this mock. It's absolutely fantastic. The reason this is on here, I mean, it's a beautiful, dynamic character that just seems so full of life, but I think the nice part usages really sell this mock because there's so many of them, and the ones I'm going to touch on don't even cover all of them. We can see beautiful things like the stair pieces being used to form this awesome sort of chest armor, canister lid pieces to make up this sort of stage or sort of factory that they're standing on here. It's great to see actual canisters being used as pieces, and that the pattern on it there perfectly fits this sort of industrial factory kind of vibe that this base has here. We can also see Pohatu Nuva's mask in red being used as blood in a combination with a bunch of other pieces to look like blood is just flowing out of this sort of canister thing, whatever it is. We can also see this snake tail piece from this Ninjago figure being used as blood kind of coming out of this pipe down the bottom here. These crowbar pieces being used as the fingers for these sort of like long, evil fingernails here. We can see this pen canister from a really obscure old Bionicle pen set being used as a sort of chamber that houses all this blood. And then there is this elephant body piece to form more sort of factory details and pipes and things. And that's only some of the nice part usages. Lots of great stuff going on here that makes for a beautiful mock overall. Love your work. Number 5 is by Redverse, and this is Chainsaw Man. I love this. The way that the clothing has been recreated here with wrinkles, these sort of rolled up sleeves, and just kind of the proportions and the way that he has reflected the actual sort of human anatomy is incredibly difficult to do with Lego, and yet it has been done with just expert skill. It's just a sight to behold. So that in itself, combined with some of the awesome poses that he's in here, is just very impressive. Also instantly recognizable as a character if you're familiar with the source material, but also instantly recognizable to see these chainsaw designs. It's just a really simple but effective chainsaw design here, using these tread pieces and some of those turntable pieces without the base in them there to reflect that of a chainsaw. It looks awesome. And one little detail that I also love is the belt design, the way that the torso there sort of has that one sort of cylindrical layer that just sort of juts out a little bit, like the shirt is just sort of being tucked into the belt there, and the fact that the belt is just a little bit smaller than the shirt there really just matches how you would expect clothing to look. So absolutely fantastic designs all throughout. What an awesome mock. And that's just number 5. Let's move over to number 4 now. And that is built by Ivan Martinov, and this is Lord 50555255534841. Anyway, this is a genius concept. The idea of this just being 3 dudes in a trench coat, hilarious and beautifully executed as well. There's something that I love about this mock that I think is one of the most difficult things to do, not just with Lego, but with art. When you look at kids' drawings, they have this beautiful, wild imagination that leads to the most insane art. And yes, it can look very simplistic from time to time, but try and recreate that art. Try and draw in that way. Your adult mind takes over, and it's incredibly difficult to do, to actually draw like a kid. And people like Picasso did it very well, and other artists have done it very well as well. And honestly, I think Ivan has somehow accomplished that too. When you look at these individual characters here, there's something so childlike about them. That being said, they're incredibly complex and very well built with awesome techniques and things. But the character design of them just seems so much like something that a child would draw. And I just adore that. And I think there's something about that. Like I said, I think it's a very difficult thing to accomplish. And I think that just elevates this MOC to a whole nother level. And it's honestly something I've not really seen on a Bionicle MOC before. So this MOC's kind of just in a league on its own, in my opinion. So yeah, seeing some of these designs, like this dude who sort of resembles a tank, but kind of has his own personality as well. This awesome dude with 3 eyes. He's probably my favorite, really like how he looks. This kind of construction looking guy with the sort of like construction like scoop thing, and that kind of being used as his teeth is a genius part use. And then this kind of smart looking dude with an abacus as well. He's fun. Just such fantastic designs, and great to see that they almost combine like a transformer or something, and then go underneath this trench coat here to appear like they're this big menacing monster or something, is so fun and so unique. I just thoroughly enjoy this MOC. It's just so cool. On to number 3 now. This is by Roses Must Build, and this is Antarctic Monkey Ranger. I think this MOC, we've spoken before about, really beautifully shaped MOCs with awesome designs. We've spoken about really nice part usages. This MOC has it all. It combines all of that and puts it into something absolutely gorgeous. One of my favorite little details is the little boot design here, using the hood piece from Han Solo here. That makes for a fantastic sort of snow boot design here. It looks awesome. And then seeing the shaping on the pants and the sort of jacket as well here, using a lot of these kind of curved slope elements here. Fantastic. It just perfectly mimics that of monkey anatomy, and beautifully reflects the sort of, legs and torso and stuff. It's just really well done. My favorite thing though is this fantastic face design, so full of color and so accurate to the source material there. Let's break down some of the pieces that I can recognize here. I'd love to know what that white piece is at the front there. It looks like some minifigure headpiece, but I can't tell. Hopefully someone in the comments knows what it is, or we can ask Sandro here. He might know since he built it. Anyway, we can see some wings in grey here that came on a bunch of sets, but specifically this came in the Lego Doctor Who set on the Weeping Angel. That's been used as a sort of fur around the chin there. Additionally, these hollow studs have been beautifully used to form the nostrils here. The eye design is also really well done using this specific piece here, which the very front of it does have that tiny little connection where you can put things like bows and sunglasses and things that you would normally put onto the hair of a friend's figure. You can insert that into that piece there, but it forms a nice sort of pupil for this eye design here, which is really nice. We can see these sort of interesting feather pieces which came on an old Islanders Lego set, and those have been used as more sort of fur details. And for the sort of like eyebrow of sorts, we've got this awesome horn piece that came on some of the old Adventurers dinosaurs as well. So yeah, an excellently crafted head design here, packed full of nice part usages, and this whole MOC itself is just really well built, so love your work. Number 2 now. This is built by Brick Brickelson, and this is Unlucky 7 League Boots. This is another MOC that's packed full of awesome, nice part usages. We'll touch on those in a minute. But I love the storytelling in this. Dude with cool rocket power boots who gets tripped over by a banana and freaks out. Now, Mr. Brick Brickelson has built so many MOCs this year that are just as amazing as this one. So be sure to check the links in the description to see some of the other fantastic stuff he's done. But man, the storytelling, the character, the life behind this MOC, it's just electric. I thoroughly enjoy it. But let's talk about some of those nice part usages, because there's a lot on this one too. The belly design here, using a Tahu How piece in brown, is a very clever idea, especially because it looks like he's got a little belly button of sorts. We can see the knees and the elbows using some Krata pieces in yellow. They look very much like knee pads and shoulder pads. We've got a piece from one of my favorite Lego themes, Dots, this awesome bracelet piece being used as the strap on his little, I guess, kind of postman bag there. Additionally, we also have the head of a Slicer, one of the old construction themes, being used to form the sort of mouth area of this monkey head. And finally, we've got some of these fire pieces from Duplo sets to form these almost sort of more kind of like cartoon-like flames coming out of his robot boots. And I think that was a very clever parts choice, because there's something about them that feels a lot more kind of cartoony And the overall vibe of this mock certainly feels very cartoony, so very clever idea to use those there. So an absolutely phenomenal mock packed full of so much life and fun. And that's number 2. We could get to number 1, but first let's talk about some honorable mentions. And I'm going to power through these so we can get to number 1 very quickly. The first one is by Alex Mox, and this is Twin Saw. This is a revamp of an old Slicer set, and it looks so fantastic. A brilliant silhouette to this, and some fantastic greeboard textures, and just a really awesome looking character design here. Really well done, definitely deserved a spot on the list, but just couldn't make it, but it fits here in the honorable mentions. Over now to Aiden Builds, and this is Kamori. I love the awesome face design on this sort of bat kaiju-like character here. The fur texture is beautiful. The awesome ear design, using some of the old sort of larger armor pieces that came on some of the Star Wars Ultra Build sets, works perfectly as sort of bat-like ears. And the sense of scale by including these 2 little jets here is very fun and makes for some good presentation with these photographs here. A brilliant mock. We also move over to a mock by Patrick Biggs. This is The Arrival of Spring. Had a lot of people who really liked this one, and I wholeheartedly agree. The base, the way this mock is moving, the beautiful shaping, and the inclusion of those white leaves with the pink flowers just makes for such a beautiful, visually striking mock here. Very, very cool. We also have an honorable mention by Mr. Ao Okononan. This is Bear on the Beach. Now, this certainly could have been towards the top of this list, but I always like to put Mr. Peiki Tongo in these because every year he delivers some of the best system character designs that you will ever see in this community. This man is so talented, and this is one of his best, in my opinion, here. Genius part use with this, I believe it's a boat sail, but it very much looks like a towel when it's wrapped around this lady here. And the shaping on all of the anatomy here is just so much of a perfect match to human anatomy. The way the legs have been sculpted, the awesome hair design and the face design there, brilliant. The accessories too really just make this mock. It's so much fun. I love this one. And then this one here, which is quite a recent one, this is called Red Dragon in Revelations Satan, and this is built by Diz. Very much a sight to behold, this one. This one certainly fits the mark in terms of just big, impressive, and wow factor. The way that these multiple dragon heads have been shaped onto this torso is awesome. One of my old graphic design teachers used to say that if you can do it once, it's an accident. If you can do it twice, it's a coincidence. If you can do it 3 times, then you're onto something and you know what you're doing. And this mock certainly has more than 3 heads, so he definitely knows what he's doing. The beautiful shaping on that torso design is really nice. Combining a lot of system pieces, but actually also a lot of construction pieces there, forms some brilliant textures and some fantastic shaping overall. I'm lost for words. This mock is just so fantastic. It's just so visually striking and impressive in its size, and some of the way that all of these different limbs have been crafted and the way there's just no gaps or anything, it's just so impressive. So certainly deserves a spot here. Alrighty, what's the number 1 spot now, the moment you've all been waiting for? Well, it's a mock that I'm sure some of you might have been expecting because it's just so gorgeous. It's by Wormy World and it's Avian Bonsai. This looks fresh out of some sort of old artwork or something. Like if you told me this was based off like a Renaissance painting or something, I'd believe you. It's gorgeous. The textures on the sort of bird part of this mock are brilliant. The lovely plants are also very fantastic, using all those little ball joints as like berries or some sort of fruit of sorts, combining it with some of those beautiful leaf pieces and a few of the new interesting kind of cloth leaf pieces that came on some collectible minifigures. Just makes for a gorgeous, striking design here. And just some great storytelling too. There's a lot of kind of life behind this bird's face, and the way it's just sort of reaching for a fruit that's just out of reach there is just fun. I don't know. Again, like some of the previous mocks we've spoken about, there's brilliant storytelling, brilliant textures, brilliant part usages, and just so much life and character to this. The mocks that look like they're living, breathing creatures are always the most interesting in my opinion. I think this mock also uses something that is, again, a difficult thing to do. It's knowing when to use little, I suppose. Maybe that's a weird way of wording that, but specifically like when we look at the legs. They're just one piece. It's one of those big claw pieces in black there, and then that kind of branches out into the foot. Now, this, I believe, is not a super sturdy design, although I saw this thing, I think it fell over like once while I was at Brick Fair. So it seems sturdy enough, but not super sturdy necessarily. But it's one piece. You could have built a maybe more complex design there, sure. But I think the fact that it is just one piece works really well, and it's exactly what this mock needed. And I think even on the tree trunk there's a lot of just simple usages of that exact same piece or other kind of tail pieces in brown and things like that. And so knowing when to not go super crazy on a design that takes thousands of pieces and instead just use 1 or 2 pieces to achieve a better result, that's something that isn't always easy to do, but when it's done well, it just looks exquisite, and I think this is a great example of that. This mock has so much simplicity to it, but it's just so striking and beautiful. Really, really well done, good sir. I adore this, and I know a lot of other people did too, because a lot of people suggested that this fit into the list here, and it definitely deserves a place at number 1. That's it for the top 10 mocks of 2022. What did you think of the list? Did you have stuff that you think deserved to be on here? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next year. Happy building, and bye for now.